This podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. Your San Diego County Toyota dealers. We've got what it takes. Fix Auto. Corky's Pest Control. And Lolita's Family of Restaurants.
Hey there, sports fans. Welcome back on campus to Santa Fe Christian. We've been kicked out of the Hall of Champions, and no, I'm just kidding. We're back here because this guy's got practice still for Open Division games. Another Laxcast, Christian Pedersen, Coach Tom DeMeo. We are now into the quarterfinals of the playoffs. We're talking all things Division I bracket. Coach, couple of interesting tight games, couple of blowouts in the first round. Teams that are moving on. We got Westview going to be taking on Valley Center. We got La Jolla versus Grossmont, Scripps Ranch versus La Jolla Country Day, and Mount Carmel versus Carlsbad. Let's start in the upper left-hand corner of that bracket. Westview, Valley Center. Valley Center, interesting, kind of a little bit of a shakedown, taking down Rancho Bernardo. Now they've got the #1 seed, Westview.
Yeah, I mean, I think going into that, I thought Rancho Bernardo would have the advantage, but Valley Center played well, and they're going to be playing the 1 seed in Westview, who I'm sure will be ready and have scouted them, and so I think Westview definitely has the advantage here, and Valley Center has to travel. They had the luxury of the home game last time, so I think this one will fall in the hands of Westview, but I think Valley Center was definitely surprised coming out of that first round.
They got a little bit of the feel-good vibe going on, but Westview, like we said, the #1 seed in this bracket, meaning that they were only a couple of points away from calling themselves an Open Division team. Right. So you got to put the de facto, they are the team to beat in this bracket. It seems like this is going to be an interesting litmus test because they've now had a couple of extra days off, and not that you can get rusty in a sport like lacrosse, but sometimes there's something to be said about you overthink it, you over-prepare, you get yourself a little in your own mind about it. Would you prefer a bye, or would you prefer just go at it, get it started?
I think, the bye is always good because it increases your chances, but it's good to play, and you do get rusty this time of year, and especially if you have a lot of seniors and the guys are getting out of school, they're in finals, and so it can be a long week. I can tell you that from experience.
In very few sports do you ever hear seniors being kind of vaguely disinterested, other than in spring season high school sports, where college looms but weeks away, and they're all like, I want to get out of here. Next game, La Jolla, Grossmont. Kind of an interesting game because La Jolla having to beat Granite Hills to get here. They were a team that about halfway through the season, we were looking at, wow, they've transitioned from D2 up to D1 without any problems. Now, scraping by in the first round, second round matchup versus a Grossmont that had a bye. What do you see here?
Yeah, I still think La Jolla and Westview are going to be right there with the two teams to beat in this bracket all together. But La Jolla had some injuries in the middle of the year, and that threw some games off and some surprising scores. But that happens in high school sports, and I think that La Jolla took care of business round one. I think they'll be a tough team to get through in this bracket.
The big thing is they'll have to do it on the road. That game's going to be at Grossmont, and I know it's not a trip to Valley Center or out to Brawley, but it can get really windy, really cold. Late night game, you can have a little bit of an advantage if you're the foothillers there. So I'm saying of all the 4 games, the La Jolla Grossmont one will probably be the closest one to watch.
Yeah, it could be. It is a tough place to play. We've played there, and we played a night game down there a couple years back, and it's not an easy place to play. So that'd be interesting and La Jolla is a good home team, so we'll see how it works out, how they show up.
Other side of the bracket, we got Scripps Ranch taking on La Jolla Country Day. Coach, you got a little bit of a sample of both these teams over the past few years to see what they have. Anybody have an edge in this one, or is this a coin toss game?
Well, these two teams, when you look at the whole season, they've been so up and down. I think Mount Carmel was coming off like a 14-goal loss to Westview, and we played them in a pretty tight game. So it all depends who shows up, and I think you've seen the same thing from both teams. So this one could go either way, and I think this will be one of the closer games, provided they both show up.
Well, hopefully they will show up, the refs will show up, everyone will actually be there. Kind of interesting looking at it. Both of these teams last year were deep runners into the playoffs in the D1. La Jolla Country Day losing to San Marcos, Scripps Ranch losing to you guys. Both these teams have players that have the resume And yet both of these teams, like you said, had some massive ups and downs. So it really just comes to what mentality, what mindset. I got to think, though, that right now I would play the hot hand and say that Country Day, with not taking that bye, with getting out there and getting that win under their belt, they beat Eastlake in the first round to move on, kind of rather authoritatively. So you got to think that La Jolla Country Day, with the offensive momentum they got, they might have a slight edge, but like you said, real toss-up game. Last one, Mount Carmel, Carlsbad, very much a North County matchup. Coach, what do you see here?
Well, I think Carlsbad's going to be a tough team to come out of the bracket, and they took care. They're going to be the type of team that could be there in the finals. And last year they fell off a little bit, and they didn't make it to that Final Four. But this year they're poised for it, and they had some close games with some good teams, and they had a good strength of schedule. And normally, as we talk about, that prepares them for this time of year. So they'll be a tough team to beat.
They took a couple of L's to league opponents like Poway and that whole North County circuit that you got to run the gambit of, and it's kind of showing out that sometimes those teams like Westview plays against Bishops and you guys, and Carlsbad plays against LCC in those games. It shows you that there is a little something to strength of schedule, and it might not help you X, Y, or Z in the power rankings, but it can help your players literally just prepare against better talent. So we'll only see, though, when all the chips fall and where they may. We may be here next week talking about 4 major upsets, 4 overtime games, or 4 blowouts, and that's the beauty of the playoffs. You just never know.
These ones certainly in Division I could go anyway. We saw that last year, and I think we'll see the same thing this year.
Well, and we will be back here when it is down to 4 to update you on everything going on. Thanks for tuning in, sports fans.